Hi. On the night of April 14, 1912, a marvel of engineering and luxury set sailed on its journey across the Atlantic Ocean. Did anyone know that this would be a journey forever remembered in history, one that would capture the imagination of generations to come? Welcome back to Intellectual Minds Hub, where today we embark on a journey back in time to explore the tragic story of RMS Titanic. While talking about the RMS Titanic, it needs no introductory words. It was a marvel of its time, proudly proclaimed as unsinkable due to its advanced engineering and opulent amenities. However, fate had a different plan for the grand vessel. On that fateful night of April 14, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg in the icy waters of the North Atlantic, setting off a chain of events that would lead to one of the most infamous maritime disasters in history. It was one of the largest ships of its time, measuring approximately 882 feet and 9 inches in length and 92 feet 6 inches in width. It had the capacity to accommodate around 2,400 passengers and 890 crew members, totally approximately 3,300 people when fully booked. The ship was designed with the three passenger classes: first class, second class, and third class. First class passengers enjoyed luxurious accommodations, spacious staterooms, and access to elegant dining rooms, etc. And second class and third class passengers also had comfortable accommodations and dining facilities, but not as like first class. The Titanic was equipped with advanced safety features, including a double-bottomed hull and 16 watertight compartments with remotely operated watertight doors. The ship had 20 lifeboats and 4 collapsible boats, providing a total capacity of uh, 1,178 seats. The Titanic had a few nicknames during its time, but the most common and well-known nicknames was the Unsinkable Ship, the Millionaire's Ship, and the Ship of Dreams. The design of RMS Titanic was overseen by a team of skilled naval architects and engineers working for the British shipping company White Star Line. Thomas Andrew was the designer of Titanic. Bruce was the chairman of the White Star Line, and Smith was the captain of the RMS Titanic, and the Frederick Fleet was the first person who actually announced the sighting of the iceberg. As I have already told you that there were three classes of passengers on the ship: first, second, and third. So here is the ticket price of the that classes. While talking about the passengers, the RMS Titanic had the capacity to carry about 3,300 people when fully booked. However, the actual number of people on board during its journey varied from various sources, and the ship was not at full capacity when it departed from Southampton, England on April 10, 1912. When the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank on April 15, 1912, there was an estimated 2,224 people on board, including passengers and crew members. Out of this total, around 1,317 were passengers and the rest, approximately 907, were crew members. So, what happened at that night? What is the actual mystery behind Titanic? The Titanic started its journey on April 10, 1912 from Southampton, England with over 2,200 passengers and crew on board. The Titanic had received many wireless messages warning her of icebergs. At one point, frustrated, the wireless operator told the Californian, that was another ship nearby, to stop talking about icebergs. At 11:40 p.m., the lookout in the crow's nest, Frederick Fleet, spotted an iceberg right ahead of the Titanic and alerted the bridge. First Officer William Murdoch oversaw the ship and ordered the ship hard to starboard, hoping to steer around the iceberg. The engines were put in reverse. The starboard side of the Titanic unfortunately struck the iceberg. A series of holes was created below the waterline of the ship, The holes were so widely separated that 5 of the watertight compartments were flooded. The Titanic could only stuff afloat with 4 compartments breached. Distress signals were sent out and nearby ships responded to the Titanic calls for help. The RMS Carpathia, about 58 miles away, was the first to arrive at the scene. Under the command of Captain Arthur Rostron, the Carpathia sped through the icy waters and reached the sinking Titanic at around 4 a.m. on April 15. Some people speculate that if the Titanic hit the iceberg head on, it either would have stayed afloat or there would have been enough time to get everyone safely off the board before sinking. While some people said that if Mr. Murdoch would not reverse the engines, which actually slowed down the speed at which the Titanic could turn away from the iceberg, the ship may have missed the iceberg. By the way, a mere 2 hours and 40 minutes after the Titanic struck the iceberg, her forward deck dipped underwater and cracked under the weight of the water. The Titanic snapped between the third and fourth tunnels. After bobbing in the water for several minutes, the stem disappeared into the vast depths of the ocean. Here is the list of the survivors. It is shown here that there is a more percentage of the first class survivors and the crew members that basically gave their life for their country. The sinking of Titanic resulted in a significant loss of life due to a combination of factors, many of which contributed to the disaster. One of the most critical factors was the lack of lifeboats on board. The Titanic was designed to carry 32 lifeboats, enough to accommodate all the passengers and crew members. But due to some regulations, it only had 20 lifeboats and 4 collapsible boats that could accommodate 1,100 members. The ship was sailing at a high speed through an area with known iceberg warnings. When the iceberg was spotted, the Titanic crew tried to steer the ship away, but it was too late. Another cause of so many deaths is cold water. The water in the North Atlantic was near freezing temperatures, and survival times for those immersed in the water were very short. They declared it as an unsinkable ship, but they don't know that God knows better. The evacuation process was disorganized. Many lifeboats were not filled to capacity, and some launched with only a few members on board due to fears that they might not withstand the strain of being fully loaded. The SS Californian was a British steamship that became infamous for its proximity to the Titanic on the night of April 14, 1912, when the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank. The Californian was approximately 20 miles away from the Titanic when the disaster occurred. On that fateful night, the Californian's radio operator turned off the wireless and went to bed before the Titanic struck the iceberg. Consequently, he didn't receive the Titanic's distress messages about the collision. However, the crew of the Californian did notice unusual lights in the distance, which were later confirmed to be distress rockets fired by the sinking Titanic. Despite witnessing the rockets, the Californian's crew did not take immediate action to assist the stricken Titanic. The officer on watch thought that the rockets were merely celebrating signals and did not consider them to be a sign of distress. The SS Californian's inaction and failure to respond promptly to the Titanic's distress signals have been the subject of much criticism and have sparked controversy and debate over the years. In 1898, Morgan Robertson wrote a novel called Futility. It is a fictitious novel which shows the similarities to the real-life sinking of the RMS Titanic, which actually occurred 14 years later in 1912. The novel describes the largest and the most luxurious ocean liner of its time, the Titan, which was deemed unsinkable. In the book, the Titan strikes an iceberg in the North Atlantic and sinks on its journey in April. The Titan, like the Titanic, carries an inadequate number of lifeboats. The ship's crew in the novel is unprepared for this disaster. Only a few people survive at the end of the novel. It is important to note that Morgan Robertson's Futility novel is a work of fiction, and the similarities between the events in the novel and the real-life sinking of the Titanic are considered coincidental. However, as we reach the end of this video, we are reminded of the ship's grandeur, the dreams it carried, and the heart-wrenching tragedy that unfolded on that fateful night. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the Titanic history. Please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel to continue discovering captivating stories from the past. Thank you.